Hello, can you guys hear me? Is the audio good? Is the music good? Make sure to tell me because I'll have no idea otherwise. Hello to everybody in the chat and everybody watching. Okay. All right, let me get something ready. Alrighty. So this is supposed to be an AMA for the most part, and some other stuff on the side. Oh, it's Latini. Hello there. How are you doing? Feeling any better now? I sure hope so. Is the audio any good? By any chance, is the music too high or too low? Make sure to tell me. Aren't you already in the live stream? Latini? I'm pretty sure you're already in the live stream, considering that you're dropping messages in the chat. Okay, it's good. Okay, thank you. Okay. All right. You want to talk in the live stream? Yeah, I'm not mentally prepared for that. If you had told me ahead of time, it would have been okay, I guess. But you didn't. Oh, is that Nexus I'm seeing? Yep, that looks like Nexus to me. Is it Nexus? It looks like Nexus at least. Yeah, I was looking at my to-do list for the project, for the MinMaxer's dream, and I'm really running low on excuses to not make big videos. I was looking at my notes and I'm like, most of them are already done or something that I could do very quickly. I only know one Limbo main. All right, this is supposed to be an AMA, so drop the questions. I'm ready to go. Okay, there have been a bunch of stuff that I've been looking forward to testing, but I haven't had any time. One of which is Tenet Tetra's grenade AoE, like this thing. Grenade impact, grenade AoE. I've been wondering if this thing is any good. Ah, hello there, Bob. Yes, that's what this project is for. This project is the program that's going to make the new recommended series. Okay, you're asking about exalted weapons. If the weapon is something that can be... If the exalted weapon is something that can be simulated by just having, you know, like rifle mods and AoE mods and melee mods and such, I'll probably add it, but on one condition, that people actually end up using the program. If nobody ends up using the program and the only one using it is me, which I'm going to be using it for the recommended series, then I won't bother making it. But if I see that people actually want it, yes, then definitely, it's not anything difficult. At the worst case scenario, I'll just add like a button here that lets you set the strength, duration, efficiency, and what's the other one? The range. And that's all you'll need. I don't think there is such a thing as hard to program. I mean, it doesn't change the receiving end at all because the damage taking is the same. It's all the same code. It'll just change a little bit about the sending part. The augment, you say? Actually, it would be surprisingly easy to make the augment work. I can already think of a few ways to make it work. You just need to check for what damage type there is and just make a their dictionary corresponding for each damage part, and then you transfer that damage type depending on what the resistances are. It's pretty easy, just a simple dictionary. Why I don't post anything on my Twitter? Well, I don't know. I got the feeling that nobody gives a shit about, nobody cares about Twitter at all these days. That's the vibe I've been getting. If you think I should, do you think I should post stuff there? Like, do people even look at that thing? Excal's emissive augment, you say? Well, Excal's Exalted Blade is just a melee weapon with 2 hits instead of 1. That's easy enough. And then we have the emissive part is just basically the same as Baruch's augment, except you choose the element to add. So all it would take is for me to add a slider for it, like a drop-down menu. By the way, can you see my screen? I sure hope so. Is my screen showing up? I forgot to ask that part. I assume you would have told me if it didn't. You say Twitter is a good place to increase my audience? Maybe you're right. I honestly don't know. Because I've never been on Twitter. I've barely ever used it. I got the feeling it will waste a lot of my time if I attempt to get a foothold in Twitter. And maybe I'll do it down the line, but not right now, because it feels like a massive waste of time right now. Yeah, I know it's not my face because, well, I don't have a face cam on. Okay, let me see what Bob is saying. Okay, Bob, let me see what I can tell you. You're asking what enemies are available. Okay, so the normal way to do it, the recommended way I should say, is to use test groups. Currently we have Grenier Corpus Corrupted, but if you want to set up a custom test, you could always use any of the enemies inside this list. But if I wanted to add new enemies, it wouldn't even take me 10 minutes. I could add all enemies in a day. All enemies in Warframe in a day. Except for special ones that have special code connected to them. Other than those, I could add all enemies in one day, basically. I just haven't bothered because I felt no need. But something like Infested that's not present here could be added in a matter of seconds, honestly. Okay, you're also asking about primed mods. No, not primed mods, my apologies. Priming targets. Honestly, it should be possible. Like, it's not some magical thing that I cannot make happen. But at the same time, if we're talking standard test, it's unlikely to be very useful. But I'm totally down for implementing it if people actually want it. Yeah, Latini, it do be like that. If you're going to go with that excuse of steel path level cap, so is YouTube. So at that point, you might as well not make anything. And for Nexus, what's he saying? I like Lanka. Why do I like Lanka? Okay, I like Lanka because of this. Look how many different fire modes you have that you can choose or not choose depending on your preferences. It's kind of funny because I had to come up with a whole new system just for Lanka, because this many fire modes were not actually present in the database. So I had to set up a system that I can like scalably interface with the database in a way that doesn't damage the database in a non-destructive way. So if I update the database, I won't have to go and change these stuff manually. So I think I called it override system. Actually, let me check the exact name. Okay, it's in assets, database, weapon stats. It's called primary override because thus far that's all we have, primary weapons. But secondary is surprisingly easy, though melee will take a few adjustments, but not too many. As I told you, I'm running out of excuses to not make any big projects happen. Exactly. So many buttons, I like it. A lot of buttons means a lot of control, especially when you can have all of them be active at the same time. It's really funny when you have that. Let me show you. Okay. Here we have Lanka, partially charged shot, 3x zoom, 3x zoom charged. And all of these are just the stats, and we have shot once from every fire mode, which is a lot of shots. A lot of shots, just let's go with that. Oh wait, we have not shot with every single one. Or did we? This is just combo going up. Oh my god, did you see how fast all of them died? Yep, they all died under 2 seconds. You want to see my PC specs? Well, let me tell you, it's a Nitro 7 Acer. The exact name is something like AN715 something something. You can find the rest, I suppose, if you really wanted to. Alright. What else do we have on the agenda? Yeah, I was supposed to make these sniper and primary weapons happen, but honestly, I'm just gonna procrastinate on that front as long as I possibly can. Oh yeah, I wanted to check that one Tenet Tetra thing. Alright, I wanted to see how effective this specific Tenet Tetra use case is in comparison to something like Tonkor. Yeah, probably Tonkor, because Brahma would require me to do a little bit of overriding, which I have not done. Let's say body shot, AoE test, repeat count of like 15, let's go 10 for the sake of not crashing anything, because I'm not sure if both my screen recorder and this thing working simultaneously, I'm not sure that will end well for me. So let's say level 100. And no, actually, let's make it 1 for now and see how damage display goes. Fossilized Deimos enemies, you say, huh? I think they just have specific resistances. Yeah, I think they're just armored and they have specific resistances that are different compared to other infested units. Nothing special. I could make it happen pretty quickly. Yeah, I haven't done it because in my standard testing procedure, there is no infested in it, because infested would kind of give an overwhelming advantage to all fast weapons while giving a significant disadvantage to all the slow weapons. So I'm not going to include it inside the main testing procedure, but in terms of just adding it, it's no big problem. I could add it at any time. These are just simple stats they could add to the databases. Let me actually show you what I mean. So this is database, and we have enemy stats. And there it is, enemy stats JSON file. I can add any enemy inside of this list and then refresh the program, or I guess in this case I had to rebuild the program, but it's close enough, and they would just appear in this list, and I'll just have to they'll appear in this list right here. And if I wanted to make a test group based off them, I would just add that set of test group code, and just like that, it's done. Nothing special needs to be added because I've thankfully made the program in a way that can easily be expanded upon. The funny thing is, I wouldn't have to write down resistances for every single enemy. For example, it says health type, robotic, and then I have another file called health types, which has a reference to robotic and its stats. So any manual entry have been kept to a minimum, because I'm still traumatized by having to write every single line of every single weapon stats in the last program. It was like something like 15 to 20,000 lines of code just writing a database, where I could have done this instead. I just didn't know how to do it back in the day when I was doing the Python variant of this program. So since I've been traumatized, I'm trying my hardest to have as little manual work as possible. But even with that, this program has already taken more time than that one in terms of just making primary weapons work. Though that's mostly because of the UI, because the UI and the fact that I'm not familiar with C# that much. Well, I guess I wasn't familiar with Python either, but Python is a easier programming language. Okay, you're asking for a Latom build. There are no Incarnon weapons, but I did realize that because I made the innate mods setup ready, I could make something akin to a, what's it called? Incarnon weapons relatively easily. Steel Path optimal weapon guide, like a series of good, decent weapons to use. I've been thinking about that actually. I've been thinking that my channel is pretty heavily catered toward new players. And I haven't really dabbled too much in terms of Steel Path at all. So it would be a good idea. Yes, I've been thinking about doing it, but I'm not completely sure just yet, because it's a lot of testing to be done. That's the real downside of it. It's a lot of testing, and a lot of testing is a lot of work. And it's pretty boring work, to be honest. But I'll tell you one thing. I've been planning to have the bulk of the testing done on stream, if possible. Okay, maybe not the bulk of it, but at least part of it on stream, so people can contribute, people can come up with ideas, and it'll be less boring that way. Because just think about it, going one weapon after another, testing a lot of different possibilities, it gets really soul-crushing after a little bit. Yeah, I might do it. So to summarize, yes, I'll probably do something about Steel Path builds. Probably, maybe. That's the best I got, because I can't predict what future Sikta will do. Marcus says writing PTSD. Yes, it's not just mental problems either, because I did destroy both my wrists writing that last program. Right? Okay. What was I doing? Yeah, I was trying to test this Tenet Tetra and see if it's any good compared to something like Kuva Tonkor maybe. And let's just go with radiation, because I'm pretty sure radiation is a super good element to have on these guys. So let's first just try one. Okay, let's see what stats we have. Alright. Multi-shot, fire rate is 1.33, magazine is 1. Yeah, checks out, because this uses the entire magazine for just one hit. What's the AoE range? It's 8. Isn't that more than Tonkor? How much is it for Tonkor? It's 7. So Tenet Tetra has a bigger AoE radius. That's surprising. I didn't think that would be the case, but alright, I can work with that. And how much does it get with a Prime Blast radius on? 11.52. How many enemies will that hit? Oh, that's 3, that's 6, 9, 10 enemies. There's only 16 in this test, and this guy's hitting 10 at a time. That's a lot of enemies, I'll tell you that much. Alright, let's get something going. So, one little tidbit, galvanized status, or galvanized aptitude, it only affects the first fire mode, which is to say the impact, grenade AoE impact, that's the only thing it affects. So if I was to put this thing here, it would not affect the actual AoE damage at all. That's a mistake I see quite often, and it's quite sad because... is there even a 12-meter blast radius in the game? I think what I said was more than 12, it was 17. Or was it 16? No, Nexus, it wasn't 12. Pretty sure it was more than that. Okay, Latini, that's a kind of hard thing to do. When you're asking about builds for Steel Path, for Warframes, Warframe builds are just so customizable that it's really, really hard to come up with a solid build that people will agree upon. You can see that I'm not a big fan of something that can be disputed based upon opinions. And if I can't really test it in a standardized way, it's unlikely that I'll make a video that goes like, oh, Steel Path builds for recommended Steel Path builds for every Warframe. It's unlikely to happen. Not impossible, but unlikely. Considering the direction I'm moving the channel right now, it's very unlikely actually. I said that 15 plus wasn't there and doubted if even 12 to 13 was. Well, I'm not exactly a walking encyclopedia, so I can't remember every stat there is. So yeah, I can be wrong about stuff, that's fine. Alright, let's go Serration. Heavy caliber maybe? Should we go critical delay or point strike? That's one of the main questions every time I want to test something. Critical delay, a rifle that is, or point strike. Sometimes critical delay is better, sometimes point strike is better. So in this case I'll probably go critical delay because I'll add fire rate. Let's go vial acceleration. Do we want reload? What's the reload on this thing? 1.8, magazine is 1, so we want reload. Okay, where's reload? Primed fast hands. Okay, now which I'm thinking about it, it might be a good idea to change this weapon to Toxin, so we can make something like viral, because I didn't put any multi-shot in here. And there's only one spot left, so let's change this to Toxin, and then we'll use a cold 165 if I can find it. Alright. Hammer Shot. I'm not sure how to say your name, but I'm just going to call you Key. So, Key, Hammer Shot does have its use cases, yes, but the difference it makes compared to other mods that could also fit in that slot is usually within 5% effectiveness, which is to say it's not really necessary, but if you want to be an absolute min-maxer about it, yes, there are situations where Hammer Shot is useful, but there's not that many of them. So maybe like 15% of weapons can make really good use of it, maybe even 10%, no more than that. Okay, let me drink some tea. 1 second, I'm drying up. Ahem. Okay. Alright, so let's see how this thing does. Alright, about 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 shots. This isn't a website, and technically it's not an app either. This is the program that I've been making. This is the thing that I'm here to answer questions about. It's called MinMaxer's Dream. It's the program that I've been developing for the past, I don't know, I haven't checked, probably more than 4 months, maybe 5, 6 months. So, Dam's Killer, and the skull, red skull next to it. This will be public whenever it's finished. It's not finished yet, so it's not public yet. This is the program that I'll be using to develop the new recommended series. The last recommended series was done with a Python program. So this one is in C#, which is done with Unity. Basically, I'm learning new stuff as I'm making new YouTube video series. Okay, let me see what Bob asked there. Alright, Bob, so you're asking about faction mods. As Nexus will tell you in a second, okay, he already told you, I despise Bane mods. Anything that has to do with faction-specific mods, I would rather die than use it. You may be asking why? The main reason is that it's really, really bad design and it's really annoying to use. There is no amount of effectiveness that is worth sacrificing usability. No amount of effectiveness, like straight up. So even though I'm developing most mods, Bane mods, strictly outside my program. Massive bias there, yes, I know, but I'm not going to give you guys faction mods in my program. It's bad design, and it should not be encouraged, not even a little bit. Okay, let me see what question. Okay. If it has a mag size of 1, why use fire rate unless it's longer than reload speed? I think about Tenet Tetra's alt fire, it's always a magazine of 1. So technically, yes, I could add magazine here, Nexus. Weapon augments, key, yes, it will probably support weapon augments. Okay, let me actually write that down. I totally forgot to. Weapon augments. All right, it's not going to be that difficult. Weapon augments are just an extra layer that I'll have to develop later. Okay, it's in my notes now. I totally forgot about it. Okay, questions are faster than I can answer them. So Nexus, Tenet Tetra, you cannot make it more than magazine of 1. Technically, I could do it here, but you can't do it in game, so it would kind of be pointless. So let me see what else we got. All right, Damskiller, I guess I'll see you another time. Bye-bye. I answered key. Math doesn't lie? What do you mean? I don't get that one, Nexus. So let's see what else we have. Okay. What if they get reworked with a functional system for the faction modes? If they get reworked, then we'll be talking about it. But as long as they are what they are, I will not implement faction mods in my code. It's basically like killing myself, because it hurts me to see people use mods that are really clunky to use and generally don't provide enough of a benefit to even be worth using, in my opinion. Mathematically, they're most definitely useful, but realistically, no, they're not, because you'll have to swap them every mission. They only work on specific weapons and specific weapon types, and generally the amount of resources that you'll have to dump into them, it's just not worth it. If you're going to spend resources and your time, you should get something that's strictly better, not something that's only sometimes better, but always more annoying to use. Okay, you're asking if crit chance or crit damage is first. What's your name? Let me check. Harlonix. Okay, Harlonix, crit chance or crit damage? Yeah, that's a terrible question. If you're going to add crit chance, you'll have to add crit damage. If you're adding crit damage, you'll have to add crit chance. There's only one exception that I know of in the entirety of Warframe that does not go by that rule, and it's Nell. Because Nell has a gimmick where you get, I don't actually remember if it was you'll get crit chance or you get crit damage. I think you get crit damage, so you won't need to add more crit damage, or you could add it, but it wouldn't be optimal. But in most cases, if you're going to add crit mods, you're going to have to add both of them. And does status chance have less effect in build? It really depends on the weapon. I can't give you like one overall rule that encompasses everything. If it was possible to give you an overall rule, then why would I make a program that calculates things? I would just tell you the rule. But no, it's really, really complicated. Some weapons make very good use of status effects, but some weapons don't. That's just what it is. And the higher level you go, the more divisive status effect becomes. Because if your weapon is a weapon that kills with status effects, you'll need a lot more status effect, or at least comparatively speaking, at higher levels than lower levels. But on the flip side, if your weapon is a weapon that applies enough status effects, you don't need to apply more. For example, a weapon with a fire rate of 12 those rarely have rarely have a need for more status chance because how high their fire rate is. They get to cap status almost instantly, so it wouldn't matter too much. About what Damskiller said in regards to 1% crit chances, generally speaking, if something has a really low percentage, it will still be considered in a test like the one I'm doing with the program here. That's the beauty of it. I'll tell you a little something that might blow your mind, but a weapon like Glaxion, let me actually show you. Default Glaxion, not Vandal, default Glaxion. How much crit chance do you think it has? Well, let me find it. Okay, does it have mods? Okay, let me remove the mods. Okay, default Glaxion has 8% crit chance. Believe it or not, the best build you could make without Rivens on Glaxion will include crit mods. It's really weird, but it's true. I've tested it thoroughly because I really thought my brain is going to explode. Because Glaxion has 8% crit chance. There's no way it should be using any crit mods. But when you actually test the possible mod combinations, instead of adding more elemental, it's better to add just crit. Because it's a multiplier at the end of the day. So how much is, let's say we have corrupted crit chance and critical damage. Where is it? 24%. That 24% is enough for this specific weapon to be more useful than any other mod than you could put in that slot. So it's really hit and miss with crit chance. There are other weapons which have even more than 8% crit chance, but don't make a lot of use. They don't have a lot of use for critical mods. And the main reason for that is right here. Status chance 0.34, which is to say 34%, and a very high fire rate. What that means is you'll almost immediately hit that 10 viral if you're using viral or 10 corrosive. Basically, status cap is instant. Unless you're running a heat build, it's better to go with crit than more elemental damage. So it's really a case-by-case scenario. You're asking about, oh, by the way, hello, Blue Traveler. Can the program compare different test setups, such as save one result and compare it to another? Not automatically. No, that's not a thing, because if I give you two different test results and tell you to compare them, at times you will realize they're not really comparable, but you can manually compare them if you wish. So let me give you an example real quick. So if I disable damage display, let's say this with a multiplier of 250. What was that? I totally missed what that said. Oh yeah, did I add galvanized scope? Okay, let's remove that and add like corrupted fire rate. Okay, this thing's not killing anything at this level. Let me lower the level to 1. What the heck is going on? Did I break something? Oh, it's an AoE test. Okay, I totally forgot to add a warning for the AoE test, because if your weapon doesn't have AoE, it will do 0 damage. Okay, there we go. So this is the first test, and let's just say instead of multi-shot 2, we add galvanized multi-shot. Okay, so here's the button right here. Traveler, Blue Traveler, it's right here. All results. 1, 2. The first one with Vigilante Armaments and 38.45 seconds of sum, which is to say sum of all these numbers up here minus solo. And then we have the second one, also Glaxion, slightly different build. You can see that it's better. But the thing is that sum alone doesn't represent how good a weapon is. It's kind of weird because we're used to people saying, oh, this is the best build or that is the best build. But you'll probably never hear me tell you this is the best build, because there is no such thing. There is only recommended builds. Specifically, pay attention that I never said best builds for every mastery rank. I said recommended weapons for every mastery rank. Which I'm trying to say is, it's this thing's problem. Consistency. So a weapon that sometimes does 10 times the effectiveness of the other weapon, but most of the time is about the same, and the second weapon, which is like 2% worse, but it's completely consistent. So which one is better? If you ask me, the one that's 2% worse but consistent generally will perform better in a game than the one that will on average do better, but like 9 out of 10 it will be significantly worse, but that 1 out of 10 it will do very good. That's a problem, because if it's inconsistent, well, I can't tell you it's really better now, can I? Total time to kill, TDK. Yeah, it's almost the same thing, yeah. It's basically the sum of all these different test results. Just every one of these is an average on its own, and at the end that we have calculated all of them, we'll just add them up. Pictures of mods in the program, yeah, that's not going to be possible because those are copyrighted. I cannot mess with copyright. That's just not gonna happen. So nope, no pictures for you. You'll have to learn weapon mod names, or alternatively, I did make this casual names just for you. Okay, not just for you, but you get the idea. So instead of saying serration or heavy caliber, you could just say base damage or corrupted base damage. Instead of galvanized aptitude, you can just say galvanized status, or instead of galvanized chamber, it will just say galvanized multi-shot. That's the way I like to do it, actually. I don't like to dabble in the formal name. Yeah, even for visibility, nothing is enough of an excuse to break copyright laws. You're asking me if I will buy an AMD machine, Latini? To be perfectly honest with you, it's unlikely. It's unlikely because if I want to work in Blender, it would be to my benefit to stick with NVIDIA. But if the performance difference is significant enough, well, actually, the performance to cost ratio is significant enough, I will consider it. That's all I have to say for now. Yeah, that's the last thing I want, Latini. Making it look fancy is the last thing I want. Okay, Traveler, you're asking when it will be available? Whenever it's available. I'm sorry, but that's the best I got. So, you see, it's really hard to tell. That's the problem. When you're working in development, you'll realize it's really, really hard to tell when it's going to be available. Because you're working on one thing and then you realize, oh, I totally forgot to implement that other thing. And then when you're developing that other thing, oh, I forgot that one thing. And then you're working on that one thing and you find a bug that's related to the first thing you developed. And you're like, oh God, this thing is broken and now I have to fix that thing and then come back to this. You cannot really tell when it will be ready. A certain person once said, I don't remember the names, but certain YouTuber, they said, think of the worst case scenario that would be like your absolute worst scenario for development. For example, that'll be 1 year. Then double it, and then that's your deadline. Because that's just how development works. It will just balloon as you're developing. You don't realize it early on, but it's really, really complicated. As you go further in, it becomes bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. That's just how development works, unfortunately. Or fortunately, depending on how you look at it. Aha, Riven mods, Bob. So, there is one, in terms of beta version, yes, there will be a beta version because right before the first of the recommended series, which by the way, I'm going to be doing a little bit differently compared to last time. Last time I spent like 2-3 months, okay, not 3 months, 2 months just making the video itself aside from the program, and that was really annoying. So I've decided to do it differently. Like I'll do rifle, shotgun, sniper, and then bow, and then so on and so forth. So it will be smaller chunks. So for the beta, just before I go for the very first of these series, like for example sniper or bow, I'm not sure what I'll start with. It will probably be rifle. I'll implement a beta version and make it available for everybody to test. I'll probably limit the weapons in it or something like that, so people can be more focused in finding bugs. And I'll probably give credit to everybody that helped debug the program inside the program. So that'll probably be a thing. Probably. Hopefully. And in terms of custom Riven mods, maybe. The caveat of that is, if people actually end up using the program, I'll develop the program further than I need to. Because for my own purposes, I will not use any Rivens. Because, well, simply put, if I put a Riven in the build, well, only I have that Riven. Nobody else has it, so there's no point to it. But when it comes to actual outside of my YouTube stuff use case of the program, if people actually want it, then yes. But if the entirety of the population that's using the program can be counted on my fingers and toes, then no. Is that fair enough? Okay, my tea is really hot. I burned myself. All right, let's go back. I was trying to test my Tenet Tetra and I still haven't gotten the chance. Okay, let's go back. Oh, I should have saved that build. Point strike, let's go corrupted crit chance instead. Fire rate is fine. Hammer shot, no thanks. Let's go prime blast radius. It was a cold 165. Did I miss any messages in the chat? Let me check. Latini says AMD CPU. An AMD CPU would require a motherboard that takes AMD CPUs. And to be perfectly honest with you, I barely know anything about that. So I'll have to research that whenever I have enough money to actually buy something. So for now, I'll just let it be because I'm way too busy with other stuff. Okay, let me see. What did he have? Yeah, reload, primed reload, primed magazine. So let's go back, make it an AOE test, body shot. Yeah, that's good. Now let's just set the test level to 100. Repeat count is like, let's say 5. Okay, let's say 10. Let's hope it doesn't crash anything while I'm also streaming this. Oh, let's save this. A Tetra AOE build. Here's a fun little tidbit. You can save your builds. Oh. Okay, that's not right. This should be smaller. Alright, bye-bye, Latini. What are you going to eat, though? That's a really good question. Alright, so is this build correct? Multi-shot, base damage, crit stuff. Chicken. Alright, have fun. Did I set this to Toxin? Yeah, it's Toxin. Okay, let's go, let's see how it does. Okay, 35.15. Oh yeah, one more thing. I should probably add like a question mark somewhere that tells you what you can do in the page, because it can be really confusing at times. Like, you can remove test results. Like this thing about Galaxion, if you're like, I don't want that anymore, you can just right click on it and it will just gone. And there's also a trash can icon right here. If you click it, all your results will be gone. All your saved results, that is. Is there anything particular you're excited about in the program as of now, like a feature that you're planning on implementing first? Just want to see from your perspective. From my perspective, every little tiny thing that I've made in this program is exciting. Because not only is this my first time in C#, everything I do is new. I'm basically in unknown territory. Every time I encounter something that I haven't done before, I'll have to look it up, figure it out. And I don't know if you've programmed anything before, but it's really fun. It's like a puzzle with infinite variation, and like an actual infinite variation, and not the kind that they say inside of commercial to make you buy a game. And often problems have a lot of different solutions, and that's really exciting. And after you write something, at the very end you realize, oh, I could have done it that other method and it would have probably been faster. Okay, let me show you something that if there was a programmer in the chat, they would probably cough blood by seeing it, because it's really that bad. This is my data bank reader. Any stats that I got from Warframe wiki, this thing reads all of it, turns it into usable data. Usable data inside of these fire mode classes and these primary weapon classes. And it makes it a really neat, useful information instead of just being a CSV file, which is just an Excel sheet basically. So the way I did it is this. It's terrifying how bad this is. But if there is one saving grace to it, is that I did not write this code myself. The way I did it, I wrote a code that wrote this code for me instead of me manually doing it. There really wasn't any better way to do it as far as I know, because the database is just arbitrary and I'm not the one that made the database. So I'll just have to make do with what I had. Here's override system. Here is the main stat reader. Obviously you have no idea what you're looking at, but just trust me, that's really, really bad. And on the other hand, we have stuff that's pretty good because I mostly copy pasted it off a tutorial, like this one. It's a, what was the name? A state machine. Now let me see what Bob says. Ah, thank you, Bob. I sure hope it saves a lot of time, because if I spend this much time making it, it should save others the same amount of effort. So you won't have to do the same crazy stuff to get your hands on a calculator. When I started the first calculator, I looked up every possible calculator that anyone's ever made, that I could find at least, and there really weren't any good ones. Nothing that could calculate even status effects or resistances. There were a few Excel sheets, that nothing that actually put randomness in the code. So that's why I made it, because there wasn't any other option. If somebody else had made it, I wouldn't have made my own. And that's the beauty of it. You can make anything as long as you know how to. And if you don't know how to, you can just learn how to do it. So I was talking about this state machine. I basically copy pasted it off of a tutorial on YouTube that would, the title was something like making your first Unity game or something akin to that. So whenever you are in one state, for example, main menu state, you want to go to the next state, which is, for example, weapon select state, this state machine gets activated. It goes to end state of the state you're in and then starts the begin state of the one you're going into. It's really fascinating, and I would have definitely not come up with it, but it's really useful. When someone makes it, everyone can use it. It's really interesting because it's not like you have to reinvent the wheel every time. Did I answer the question? Oh yeah, your question was a little bit different. The most exciting thing that I want to develop, you say, huh? Okay, let me actually check what I have on the chopping block. Where's my GitHub repository? Give me a second. Okay, my repository, my project, MinMaxer's Dream. MinMaxer's Dream is the name of this project. Okay, these are the stuff Renobi. Yeah, I sure hope it's helpful. I've spent almost 2 years on this now, including the first program. The first program took actually 9 months, which was finished about a year and 2 months ago. So this new one is roughly, I think, 4 or 5 months in development, but I haven't been working on it constantly because of YouTube videos, obviously, because I have to make videos after all. So let me see, what do I have here? In my to-do list, I have add targeting delay to results page. Nothing too exciting. Implementing starting combo. Also not very exciting. UI for stats of weapons. This one is actually quite interesting, but sadly, it'll probably be the very last thing I develop. Basically, what this does is... Where is the program? Right here. No, not right here. Here. When you put a mod in here, like let's say this cold 165, you don't know the new numbers, and that's kind of sad. But at the same time, it's not really that necessary if you know your stats already. So it would basically be just like Warframe. You have your mods here, and you have your slots up there, and to the left I would put a panel where you would say crit chance, crit status chance, crit damage, fire rate, multi-shot, etc, etc, and every time you put a mod up there or removed one, it would refresh for you. It will probably be a little bit more intensive in terms of calculating power, but it would be interesting and a lot of fun just from my own enjoyment, because it's unnecessary but it's really cool to have. But it's probably going to be the last thing I develop, because it probably... Oh, wait a second. If I'm going to make a beta, I'll need this for the beta because people don't remember all the stats. Actually, it might be sooner than later. It looks like I'll develop it before the beta. Okay, then I'll have to put this thing here. Alright. Incarnon weapons. No, I'm not too excited about Incarnon weapons. Innate mod... Wait a second, I already developed innate mods. This has been done. This is done. Why is this here? Okay. Alright, that one's closed. Preventive measures for starting an AoE test with a non-AoE weapon. This is the mistake I made earlier. I tried to start an AoE test with Glaxion and nothing happened. Well, because nothing will happen. Glaxion doesn't have any AoE. Incarnon weapons are a massive headache for me, because there's so many of them. There's so many Incarnon weapons, and testing them is going to be a nightmare because they all have those... They don't have those... They have those 5 evolution traits that they can change. Okay, let me see. What's Nexus saying? What kind of programmer are you not keeping your notes up to date? Yeah, I usually update my notes after I finish a major major version. Whenever I finish a major version, I usually go through my notes and update stuff. Usually after a update, after a work in progress update, like the one I did yesterday, I usually update my notes after that. And because this stream is an extension of that update, I haven't gotten to it yet. How to display an AoE test? Renobi, I'm not sure what you're asking. It's kind of hard to understand. Can you rephrase that? Oh yeah, I wanted to check a Kuva Town Core. Okay, let's go. A base damage, galvanized multi-shot, corrupted crit chance, crit damage. A cold 165. Magazine. Primed reload. What else? Prime blast radius. Do I want fire rate? Probably not. Do I want fire rate? Actually, I'm not sure. How much is this thing's fire rate? Fire rate is 2.5 apparently. Oh yeah, because of corrupted crit chance. Well, Renobi, the display really isn't a how do I put this? The display isn't a focus. How do I display AoE test? Like this. Do you see what's at the background? The ball is the target and it moves whenever enemies are dead. That's basically what the display is. It's not really complicated at all because it's not supposed to be complicated. It's not the focus of the program. Okay, what did I want to do? What was I doing again? Exalted weapons. Not yet, but if people want them, whenever my series is finished, if people actually use the program and they want me to implement it, yeah, then I'll probably implement it. It's not that big of a deal. But only if people want it. If it's only like 10 people asking for it, then probably not. Because implementing this kind of stuff takes a while. And it's quite a bit of work. But if people actually wanted this thing, then yes, that's not that big of a deal. I can implement it. But only if people want it. I will not make it for 10 people. It has to be more than 10 people. Because if it's only 10 people, the amount of time I spend developing it is going to be longer than all of the use case they will have of the program combined. And that's not going to fly. My time is very precious. But if there's a good number of people that want it, then yes, I'll absolutely make it happen. So it's up to you. If enough people ask for it, I'll make it. So if you share it with other people that might want it, then yes, if it gets popular enough, I'll definitely add whatever people want. You want Rivens? Done. You want Exalted? Done. But only if there are enough people. That's one caveat that I'm not going to back down on because my time is very limited in this world. Right, what was I doing again? Oh yeah, this is Kuwatanko, right? Yeah, with Toxin. What if a bunch of people want the faction mods though, huh? It'll take a lot of convincing for me to add faction mods in my program. Just straight up. And not a little bit of convincing. It'll need a lot of requests for me to add it. Because not only do I hate them, not only am I incredibly biased against them, not only are they something that I explicitly didn't include in the base code, so it'll probably be a little bit more work to implement them compared to something like Riven, which are relatively easy to make because they're disconnected, just a mod. So it'll just be in the mod system. It won't affect the main code. But faction mod is something they'll have to manually add inside of damage package. Let me show you damage package. Not that you'll understand it, but just to show you. Okay, these are status effects. So here it is. Take damage package. This is the biggest function in the entirety of the code. Because just look at it. This is still the same function, and it ends at line 478. And it has a lot of sub-functions that get called as well. If I wanted to add it, I should add it inside of... Where is it? It would be inside of the multiplicative bonuses. Here it is, the rest of the multipliers. It would be here, but at the same time, it would have to be here inside of this thing, which that if it's inside of that thing, it will have to be inside of my... I totally forgot the name for it. It's not an action. It's something like an action, but it's not an action, which gets shared between different scripts. So it's a little of work. I would rather not do it, and I will not do it unless I absolutely have to do it. Well, let me see. When talking about Incarnon mods, yes, that is basically how I would have developed it, correct. But it will need its own panel. Like, we have a mod panel here. It will need another panel, which will probably have to be inside of the weapon select because that's where they are in game. So yeah, it'll not be a small amount of work to make Incarnon weapons happen. And just so happens If I want to talk about Steel Path stuff, I'll probably have to talk about Incarnon weapons because, well, Incarnon weapons are the top of Steel Path right now. And that's one of the reasons that I'm kind of skeptical about Steel Path, because it'll force me into Incarnon weapons. Ah, ahem. It's a big mess, that's for sure. Oh yeah, Kuva Tonkor. I still haven't managed to finish this one thing that I've been trying to do in the past hour. Okay, let's get back to time scale of 250, no damage display. We have magazine, crit chance, multi-shot. Yeah, checks out. Is the repeat count good? Yeah. Was the last one 10? I hope it was 10. So let's see what we get. 24.62 repeat 10. Okay, so Kuva Tonkor is way better than Tenet Tetra. Kind of sad, because I was hoping it would be like at least comparable. Look at the consistency scores though. They're very similar. Surprisingly similar, actually. Oh, the main drawback of Tenet Tetra are the heavy units. It's really having a hard time killing these guys. Is the status chance too low? Oh, wait a second. Oh, wait a second. I think I used the wrong build for Tenet Tetra because it says Vile Acceleration and Primed Magazine Warp. No, that's not correct. That's wrong. Here's the beauty of saving builds. You can just click on it and boom, there it is. And yeah, it looks like that's correct. Primed Magazine, that's wrong. It should be Primed Reload. Where is my Primed Reload mod? Oh, there it is. Primed Reload. Corrupted Fire. Maybe instead of Fire Rate, I should add like maybe Toxin Status. Hello there, the ghost posts. No, it's not publicly available yet. Focus on the yet, because it's not finished yet. It's basically an AMA. This stream is basically just an AMA. Anything that people want me to add that I maybe forget about it, or any concerns and questions regarding this program, because this program will be used to make a series of videos on my YouTube channel called Recommended Weapons for Each Mastery Rank. Something like recommended rifles for each mastery rank, recommended snipers, recommended bows, recommended, I don't know, crossbows maybe, recommended AoE weapons, stuff like that. And then I'll just concentrate the whole thing into one long video called Recommended Primary Weapons for Each Mastery Rank. And then I'll do the same for secondary and melee. They'll probably not do like separated videos for secondary. I'll probably do it for melee, but not secondary, because secondaries don't actually have that many different types because their mods are all the same. Okay, maybe instead of Vile Acceleration on this build, I should use more status chance. So maybe like a Toxin 60-60. Let's see. Will this be better? It's possible. Potentially better. Let's see. Oh god, 43. Okay, that's way worse. And I think I know the reason it's way worse, because I used the Primed Magazine in that last build, and that's not possible in game because you cannot make that thing magazine bigger than 1. So what if we go back to the Corrupted Fire Rate one? Will it be better? These are the kind of questions this program really answers for you. Is it going to be better to use more status or maybe more fire rate? In this case, it is better to use more fire rate, apparently. But what if we used a 90 elemental for Toxin, like this, and then we change this corrupted crit chance to just normal crit chance? What results will we get then? $44. Yeah, that's strictly worse on all accounts. But what if we change the crit chance back to corrupted variant, but not change the toxin? All right, also 44. But it's a little bit less, so that proves to us that critical delay is the mod to use on Tenet Tetra's AoE. Wait a second, is this normal attack? Wait a second, did I forget? Oh my god, I forgot. Oh, but does it actually affect anything? Because this thing is non-AoE, so it should hit nothing in this instance. So let's actually check that hypothesis. Is this going to give us a result very similar to the last one? 46.08. It's close. It's almost the same thing, but not literally the same thing. So it seems like, yeah, if we test that one more time, we may get a slightly different result. And here's the thing about randomness. Sometimes you get good randoms, sometimes you get bad randoms. That's why we use big repeat numbers. So I'm only repeating these 10 times just for the sake of the stream. If I was to test these more seriously, I would set that repeat at the very minimum to 25. And back in the old program, the Python program, that program was so fast, I would set the repeat to like 2000 and it would still work just fine. The reason it was so fast is it was written terribly. By terribly, I mean non-scalably. This thing is very scalable, which means if I want to add new stuff, it's relatively easy, simple. And there's also a second reason for it, that this thing has a UI, an interface, and that's eating the majority of the resources for the program. In reality, without the UI, this thing would be at least 10 times faster, if not more. All right, let's go back. So, is there anything we can do to make this any better? Some people are like, why do you use corrupted fire rate? Which is to say vial acceleration. Just use speed trigger. And let me show you the difference in this instant. With vial acceleration, we get a result that is 41.65 with, where's normal fire rate? Where is my fire rate? Okay, there's the speed trigger. And we get ourselves a 42.38, which is a little bit worse, but just a little bit. And looking at consistency numbers up here, they're roughly the same thing. But it is undeniable, vial acceleration is a little bit better. So that's the main reason I use... Oh shit, I apologize. I think music ran out. Okay, there we go. The music was 1 hour, and I was supposed to only keep up the stream for 1 hour. The music finished and I was still talking. So yeah, I think I bored you guys enough already. So we might as well call it a day. We did test what I wanted to test. But one more thing just before we go. What if we swap this speed trigger for heavy caliber? Will it be any better? The answer? No, it won't really be better. Marcus. All right. It looks like to be time to say goodbye. Any final questions? If you have any final questions, drop them now. I'll finish the stream shortly. Thank you, Bob. Thank you. Nexus, from the 2 weapons that we tested, apparently so, but only from the 2 we tested. And looks like that's about it. All right, thank you everybody for joining me. I hope to see you guys next time or in the comment section. And bye-bye.